Welcome to the ThunderCast, your Marshall Athletics podcast produced by the fans, for the fans, with your hosts, Russ Livingood and KD Hugnall. We're bringing you the thundering word on the thundering herd each and every week, so keep it right here. The ThunderCast is on the loose.
Thank you for downloading another episode of the ThunderCast. I'm back with another installment, the 9th installment of this Getting to Know Our Opponent series. And this week, I am joined by two guys from JMU Sound Off, and that's Taylor Adkins and Michael Two Clutch Evangelista. Guys, welcome to the ThunderCast.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, we got a lot of game to talk about. We're going to talk about you guys and your show, and we got a lot to get into. But before I do that, I'm going to get a word from our sponsors at Leasure Oliver PLLC. If you've been hurt in a wreck, call the law firm of Leasure Oliver PLLC. Find them at 304carwreck.com. All right, guys, I say this to everybody, but I know I can feel it in my bones. You guys have cheated, and you've watched the other episodes, and you know what's coming, but I flipped the script, and I always start with the last question first. So I want to get your knee-jerk reactions. Give me a score prediction for this game.
If I have to, and this is with all due respect to Marshall, but I'm going to go 35-20 for the Dukes. I know you guys have a high-scoring offense. I think you're the second in the Sun Belt. We have a great defense, and I think some of the turnovers you've caused, I don't think all 20 of those points will be scored by your offense. I think you might get a defensive TD, but 35-20 JMU.
Okay.
I like it. Taylor's got a bit more confidence than I do. I got Dukes 27-14. We've scored 63 points and 56 points two games in a row. And I am not projecting to remain as hot. I think we're on the road. It's going to be a motivated Marshall team. They're going to play tough. I'm going to see, or I bet there's going to be some tweets about us having to bench our quarterback and firing our coach every now and then, maybe in the first half. But I still think it's going to be 27-14 at the end.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Both you guys are right around where Vegas saw this as the opening, minus 13.5 for Marshall. That line is going to move quite a bit, I'm sure, back and forth a little bit. May end up right where it started, but there'll inevitably be some movement. But interesting that you guys are right there. You see it right around that cover mark for JMU. All right, so we're going to get started first. Now we'll work our way backwards and see how you guys came to this conclusion of your score prediction. So let's hear about the coaching staff. I want to hear about head coach Bob Chesney, and then weigh in on the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator.
Yeah, I'll kick things off. So, Coach Chesney is probably a name that is probably all across college football now. He has a moniker throughout his career that he just wins. And when you look at what he's done, right, he's been a head coach his entire career. I think he went 23-9 at the D3 level, 44-16 at the D2, was 44-29 at Holy Cross. And mind you, Holy Cross did not have a winning season for over 20 years before he got there. And currently, right, he's 9-4 last year, first bowl game in JMU history, and then 7-1 so far. So he's a popular name, as you can imagine, with I think 14 to 15 openings across FBS, which is ridiculous. But as we said last year when we got him, when Kurt Signetti went to Indiana, we got our guy, right? And I think he's brought a certain enthusiasm to this group. It's hard to bring 63, 50 players, new players together, but he's found a way. We brought his strength and conditioning coach from Holy Cross this time around. And if you look at our injury reports, I don't think we've had any more than 7 to 8 guys week over week, which has been such a blessing for us. And it's been a really good ride, and we've really enjoyed having Coach Chesney and the staff here.
Yeah, he had a 9-4 season last year, which included JMU's first bowl win. Obviously, it was close to 10-3 but there was a Marshall game at the very end of the season that came down to the last play. And I think at JMU we've kind of gotten spoiled a little bit. Russ, I think you and I a couple of years ago talked about how Marshall's transition, a lot of success out of the gate, and we were kind of paralleling how Marshall and JMU both were kind of having similar programs. And so when we finished the regular season 8-4 last year, a lot of people, I think there were the overwhelming majority of JMU fans, I think, were very pleased with what Coach Chesney did, especially having to put together a team. I mean, I think what did the UNC folks say? They put a team together with duct tape and barbed wire or something like that. But we just had to put together a whole new team with just a few months before the season, and putting together an 8-4 season, 9-4 with a bowl win, and then to come out and start the year 7-1. I will say this season kind of seems to be the antithesis so far of last season. Last year we started really hot and finished really cold. This season, a lot of people, I don't think we're very happy with how we started the season. It kind of seemed like a little flat, and there were a lot of people kind of getting not confident that we would even be a conference championship contender. But these last 3 games, the team, on both sides of the ball, has really come together. And maybe Michael can talk a little bit about our 2 coordinators and what they've done to kind of turn things around this second half of the season.
Yeah, I think, Taylor, you captured sort of the temperature, right? Like, this is last year, it was a start fast team and questionable finish down the stretch, right? We blew how many, first half leads versus obviously Marshall, App State, 3 of them, right, at the end of the year. While this year it's been a slower start, but we've been able to finish strong. I don't think we haven't got a point in the second half in
all of October. Yeah.
In all of October, right? Yep. Which is unbelievable. So, and a lot of that starts with our defense, right? Coach Hitchler coming in. He was a co-DC at Alabama last year. And funny enough, was Coach Chesney's D-line coach at Sal Virginia University back in like 2010, which is how that relationship kicked off. So he's been absolutely fantastic. And what he's done is I think he's taken the best of our personnel and just really maximized their output. You're going to see a lot of different formations up front. We'll be a 3-down team one time, and then we'll switch to 4. Then we'll switch to more of a bear front. We'll bring our safeties down as linebackers, right? We'll blitz the edges. He likes to cause havoc in space, but he also commands fundamentals, right? Like, we're never going to lose out on the edge outside, which is why our run defense is so good. And he's found a way to like really instill a lot of confidence out of our corners, because we're going to be, we run a lot of man coverage, right? We blitz a lot, and he's Justin Eaglin. And you look at Elijah Culp, these guys just have to have supreme confidence, which I think he brings. And then our OC, Dean Kennedy, which, Russ, you're on Twitter. I think, sometimes, the fans want to get rid of him very quickly, but then other times, he looks like the second coming, right? And I think, Dean Kennedy is an up-and-coming coach. He was a GA at Florida before he took over the offense at Holy Cross. I think he was the OC for only maybe a year or 2. Our O-line coach was actually the OC for a majority of Coach Chesney's tenure at Holy Cross. But he's up and coming, right? He has a lot of unique philosophies. I think this year he's really matured and just let Alonzo Barnett loose. And he's running him. He's throwing to the outside. He's not trying to let the players think too much, in my opinion. And I said this on our podcast. This is our second time playing the 3-3-5 defense. And if you look at what we did against Old Dominion, there was a lot of quarterback run game, a lot of quarterback option, just to really play the numbers game against that type of front. I think this game is going to showcase sort of the evolution of Dean Kennedy, because obviously your coaches have seen that film. You run a 3-3-5. How are we going to counter it? It's going to be a really nice like chess match game on Saturday.
Yeah, and that is a good segue. We'll get to defense here in a minute, but you talked about the offense and what they're going to do or may do. So let's hear about this Duke's offense. Obviously, when you talk offense, usually everything starts at quarterback, but I'd also like to hear his targets from the receiving core. Talk about those big guys in the trenches, the offensive line, and then the running back group.
Yeah, so as we kind of talked about how the offense seemed to have a little bit of a slow start this season, actually, we shouldn't say the entire offense. The rushing game has been on point all year. I think there was a big kind of red flag game for us when we went down to Georgia State, and as Marshall's going to experience next week, the atmosphere is terrible. Mm-hmm. I mean, the fan attendance, and as our old coach Mickey Matthews would always say, those are going to be some of the hardest games to go to, because you have to create your own atmosphere, you have to create your own environment, and the team you're playing, that you just don't go into it with the mental capacity. I mean, you're just not thinking this is going to be the best of the best. Well, I believe Alonzo Barnett was 7 for 14 in that game with only 74 yards passing. We were down 7-0 at half, came back to win 14-7. And right now, with all the playoff talk and rankings talk of JMU, all the American teams, the one game that they all want to point to is, well, that Georgia State team, and look how bad you did there. So from an offensive standpoint, there was question at quarterback, and I shouldn't even say quarterback, because I think it's important to talk about the entire passing game. The receiving core is new. Alonzo, for those Marshall fans that don't know, he tore his ACL in that game against Marshall.
Final play.
It was a 9 to 12 month recovery, and 9 months to the day he started against Weber State. So you're talking about a quarterback who didn't have a spring practice, did not have a normal preseason fall practice, and he was competing against Matthew Sluka, who Bob Chesney brought in. It was his 3-year starter at Holy Cross. And I think there's a lot of, that's why probably some Marshall fans saw us playing 2 quarterbacks the first 2 games of the year, because, and I think that speaks so highly of Alonzo to beat out Coach Chesney's starting quarterback for 3 years at Holy Cross. He won the starting job under Coach Chesney. He won the starting job under Coach Signetti. He got benched for Jordan McLeod, but this guy has won the starting job under 2 coaches. And so I've been really impressed with how he's come along. And I think the success that you've seen him have the last 3 games with all over 250 yards passing. He's had 11 touchdowns just in the last 2 games. So these are kind of put up some of these offensive statistics. So our total offense right now is 26th in the country. Our rushing offense is 7th in the country. Our scoring offense is 27th. Our passing offense is 97th in the country. However, that is up almost 30 spots from 126th in the country at the start of October. So the offense is really coming along, and Michael can probably tell you about some of these receivers and running backs that we have, but I will just tee up Michael with this. All 4 of our running backs are averaging over 5 yards a carry. And as far as we have 7 different players with receiving touchdowns, so we have a lot of offensive weapons that we can spread this ball around on the offense.
Yeah, I'll add on to that. And I want to talk a little bit about the receiving room. We'll talk about the running back room, which I think everyone knows about now, but finish it off with really what matters most, the offensive line, because that's how games are won. But like Taylor alluded, right, AB3 did not have an offseason, but more importantly, we brought in 6 new wide receivers. We brought in the Richmond receivers, DeGennaro and Landon Ellis, that have fit in nicely. Isaiah Alston came in from Iowa, big 6'4" receiver. Brandon Wisłowski from Maryland, who's more of a slot returner type of guy. Then we brought in this guy named Smoke Collins from the Division II level up from Tusculum, who averaged like 28 yards a catch. In any sort of offseason, you bring in 6 new receivers, that's already difficult as it is, right? There's chemistry that has to be gained, timing, all of that, plus the playbook. And now you add in the fact that Barnett did not have an offseason throw with him. It took a while. And I feel like as a fan base, we underestimated or maybe overreacted to like how long that would take, because he didn't get cleared for full contact. Obviously, no one touches the quarterback regardless of practice. But he didn't get cleared until what? Like the week before Weber State, Taylor, if I remember correctly. So I think we underestimated that. But also at the same time, for the folks claiming to bench Barnett, you would have to think that the other 3 or 4 quarterbacks have had a full year to take that position if they really wanted to. So I think the receiving room is really coming along. Number 13, Landon Ellis. He looks like another number 13 that's now wearing the crimson red over in Indiana. 6'2", 215-pound, big possession receiver. And then Nick DeGennaro, man, like he's an older kid, 24-year-old. He's had 2 or 3 breakout games now, and we've been waiting for that. He's a big physical target. And then the running back crew, which right now, everyone was talking about George Pettaway, the UNC transfer, and Ayodele, who was the North Texas transfer, which, by the way, I didn't know North Texas had such a rabid fan base until this past week. But those were the 2 running back names everyone talked about. But it's been the Wayne Knight and Jordan Fuller show. And Wayne Knight, I think he's number 3 in the country in all-purpose yards. Jordan Fuller came from Holy Cross, 5'11", 230 pounds. This guy is built like Hercules. Like when you look at him, he's just built to the nines, and he has just been a really good physical threat for us. But as we all know, it all starts up front, right? And I think we had 3 offensive linemen that had started multiple years for Coach Chesney, whether at Holy Cross or at JMU, with Joseph Simmons, Pat McMurtry, as well as Carter Sweezy. And we brought in a new center with Zach Greenberg, who was I think a 4-year starter at the Division II level. And then we actually played 2 right guards with Riley Robel and Josh Toner switching in and out. And I think in the last, and Taylor, you could check me, in the last 5 games, I think they've only given up maybe 2 or 3 sacks total. And then we've been rushing for at least 270 yards as well. So they've really taken the game. And, Taylor talked about the Georgia State game. When we knew the passing game wasn't it, we just sat on the ball the entire second half. And it was 4 yards here, 4 yards there. And we did just enough to win the game. I think there's a lot of confidence on putting the game in front of the offensive line and just letting them get that extra yard when we need it.
All right. So there are people talking about a 23 touchdown quarterback through the air and on the ground that he should be benched. Fans, right? Fans.
Amen. Yep.
Yeah. All right. So you start listening to those rankings, 7th, 26th, 27th, and even 97th, but you've moved up 30 spots and you see what's gone on over the last couple of games and everything. Pretty potent offense, easy to say. And, conference play, if you look at those stats, are a lot higher than when you take in the non-conference when he was trying to figure things out. So Marshall has that to look forward to, So now let's talk about the defense. Obviously, if we're talking about the offense, oh man, if it was that good, the defense is where we can get you, right? Right? We can. No,
the defense has been the one thing that even the most pessimistic JMU fan has not been able to complain about this year. If you forced me to complain about the JMU defense, one of the few critiques I would probably say is every game we're giving up 2 to 3 really big plays. I'm talking 40, 50 plus yard plays. However, I think that's the type of high risk, high reward defense that we're playing, that we're going to give up those 2 or 3 big plays and we're going to shut you out the other 95% of the time. So, I rolled off the statistics for the offense, so I'll roll off the statistics for the defense. So overall points allowed, 11th in the country, rushing yards, 5th in the country, passing yards, 19th in the country, total yards given up, 8th in the country, first down defense, 1st in the country, sacks 23rd in the country. And that sack number, which is really interesting, those 23 sacks come from 11 different players and no one has more than 3. So, we're only giving up 4.3 yards a game. That's 9th in the country. And we have 6 different players with interceptions this year. So again, the defense has yet to really be challenged. Well, I take that back. It has been challenged. They've just continued to put up great numbers. There was a statistic up until the Texas State game that we were the only team in the country that had not allowed a 300-yard game by any team. That's including a high potent Louisville offense. The joke at the Old Dominion game was Old Dominion put up 278 yards in the second half. And I was joking.
First half.
First half. And so I was joking with John, who's our other co-host, who was next to me. I yelled at him because he had on our pre-show, he had the president of JMU bragging about how we've held everyone under 300. And I said, we're never having President Jim on again. He's jinxed us. But then as the game went along, we only held him to 10 yards in the second half, kept him under 300. And then the Texas State game, Michael, I believe Texas State had 285 in the first half, something around there. And I was joking, even our text thread, I said, hey, we can do it again. Well, I'll be darned. They got 311 yards, but it was pretty darn close to keeping them under 300 again. So the second half, I mean, the defense has played great, but the second half defense has just been, it's been something unlike anything I've ever seen. And Michael kind of talked a little bit about it. We're playing. There's just, it's so difficult to kind of know where the blitz is coming from, if the blitz is coming. They're showing cover 1, they're running man, they're showing cover 2, going cover 3. It's just a lot of it's poker. It's not showing your poker face. So Michael, I know you're a big personnel guy, and I think you break down the defense man to man. So go ahead and give them your thoughts.
Well, before I do that, I think at the ODU game, Russ, if you watch at the end when they were at like 285 yards, and I think they had a third down that I think they were about to get 10 yards from. you could tell it was like the Super Bowl. Like everyone knew we had to keep them under 300, and you're not going to have a more deflated fan base. Something to complain about if we let them get over 300. It was pretty hilarious at the end of the game, but we were able to stop them on that 4th and 1 play. But Taylor said it right. I mean, this defense and the second half adjustments by Coach Hitchler has been just absolutely phenomenal, right? Like, and you're seeing that experience. I mean, obviously, if you're the coach at Alabama, you've done something right in your career. Before that, he was part of those Wisconsin defenses, also at Cincinnati when they made the college football playoff. He was a key part of that staff as well. So he brings a wealth of knowledge. But I think with this defense, I think what's the old saying? It's not the X's and O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there is elite talent at every level of this defense. So it all starts up front, right? We've got a guy, Manny Bush, similar to your guy, Katron Evans, right? 6'1", 348 pounds, like Vin Wolf.
Bush was here at Marshall for 2 years.
And he killed our left guard, who was freshman Cole Potts that time in 2022. I think he gave up like 3 sacks against him. And obviously we're lucky enough to have him now, but he's turned into a really solid nose tackle for us. And he just takes up so much room, right? He eats up space and lets our linebackers go. At the linebacker level, you got Trent Hendrick, right? He's a 4-year player at JMU, stuck it out through all the leadership transitions and has really been a solid player. He's always been okay. And I think this year you're seeing a lot of his maturity, both physically and mentally, go on the field. You'll hear him on the field. He's a leader. I think versus Georgia Southern, he had like 3 sacks and like 5 tackles for loss. And you'll see them, Russ. We'll bring our linebackers up the A gap, and you're not going to know who's coming and going. And those guys have been really stout up front. And on the back end, right, you got Jacob Thomas, who was a former walk-on, was a high school quarterback turned safety, and arguably probably our top NFL prospect right now. And he's just all over the field. He can play coverage. They bring him down into the linebacker position every now and then. He's a bigger body, like 6'1", 218. And then we'll see him, we'll blitz him as well, right? And you've got these types of players at the defensive line, linebackers and safeties, and you surround them with all these like very confident pieces. And I think contrast to last year, right? Everyone knows Eric O'Neal had like 17 sacks. Now he's at Rutgers. Kyrie Mans had 10 plus sacks as well. But you're seeing this year, it's sort of like the depth show up. I mean, we do hockey line changes on the defensive line, and there's arguably no drop-offs. We saw that against Texas State. We've brought in older players from the FCS level that have fit our scheme that play really hard. And I think Chesney's found what works. You know what I mean? I think last year we kind of indexed to the P5 drop-down guys a little bit. And this year we said, no, let's get production. Let's get folks that have been there and done that. And I think we're seeing that on the defensive side of the ball.
Damn it. I was hoping that you guys were going to say, oh, man, like 12 of these guys are out and, you know, the flu's going around and everything.
Well,
but
actually, that's something to kind of pick up on. And I have no answer for this. But, you know, this year they're requiring the teams to put out your injury list. I don't know what our strength and conditioning coach gets paid. They need to triple, quadruple it, because the last few games we've had like 2 or 3 guys on the entire list. And it's been probable. I mean, and then these other teams are putting up these lists of 10, 15 players, which is normal across all of college football. So, you know, I have no answer for it, but
we've been very fortunate as well. We've had some guys that were just like, you know, depth pieces that have been on there all year long.
Right.
But week in, week out, we've had a running back switch. You know, one went on and one came off, but we've been very fortunate as well. But, you know, all joking aside, we talked about how potent this offense is, but the defense has really just been that all season long dependable thing for you guys, and the rankings speak for themselves. I don't care, you know, you play the games that you play on your schedule, and I don't care if you guys haven't been going up against the Alabamas of the world. Not allowing 300 yards in college football to pretty much every single person that you played, every team, is wildly impressive. And you know, these impact stats as well.
And I'll add on to it, right? Everyone talks about, the Louisville game, right? We lost by 2 scores. I don't think any other team has held that offense under 271 yards. And I think, what is it, Taylor? More than half of those were from 2 plays, which was the 70-yard run and the 74-yard pass. for scores. And then obviously we had the touchdown.
It was something like 60-70% of the yards from that game were those two plays. They scored 28, but one of those they just recovered a fumble in the end zone. So, no offense has put up more than 3 touchdowns on JMU all year. And, that Louisville game is one that we really wish we could have back. Some people probably blame the coach staff. I don't. I think they were doing the right thing that they needed to do at that time of the year. You had 2 very good quarterbacks, and you didn't know who you needed to go with. But it would have been nice to have played that Louisville game in the second half of the season.
I think it's pretty safe to say, too, that the Alonzo Barnett of right now going into this week was not the same Alonzo Barnett that was back then, too. So, you know how it is. Fans are going to fans are going to overreact. And, you guys should have never lost a game. You should have always won by 50. Same with Marshall. That's the way fans think.
Well, and speaking of fans, not so much our fans, but the fans of half the American Conference just over the last week. I'm pretty sure after USF beat Florida and Memphis and all that, they all had that great start. I'm pretty sure the entire American Conference was convinced the college football playoff G5 team was going to come from the American. And only in the last week do they realize they might be in trouble. So they've really been coming after JMU for quote unquote our weak schedule. Well, I think I've seen a couple of JMU fans or JMU fan accounts put out that our strength of schedule is actually above Memphis and North Texas. And the one big thing that to point out, we're 11th in the country in scoring margin. So if we had a weak schedule and we're only winning these games by 2 or 3 points, I'd get your point. But we're winning these games by significant margins. Georgia Southern by 25, Liberty by 18. The Louisiana game was a 10-point win, but that was a game where, again, we shut them out in the second half. So the offense really coming along these last 2 games. The only thing I will say, because I was texting with a buddy, another JMU friend from Virginia Beach, was I think, you were talking about Russ bandwagon fans kind of jumping on and off. It's only a 2-game sample size of 8 games we've played so far in a 12-game regular season. So can the JMU offense continue to produce what it has these last 2 games is still to be determined.
All right, so we've talked offense, we've talked defense. Now let's talk special teams where games can be won. You see it week in, week out. So I'd like to hear about your kicker, both accuracy and distance. I'd like to hear about the punter who can help flip the field and really help as well. You guys know, coming in here to Marshall in 2023, the punter that put on the most wild performance I've ever seen, where we started on the 1, and the 2. And then I'd like to hear about your return guys. College football doesn't really have kickoff return guys impacting games that much anymore, but the punt return game is still something that can help. So I'd like to hear about all those guys on special teams.
I'll give the 40,000-foot macro view, and then I'm going to let Michael get into the weeds. I think our return game, both on punt and kick return, is great, albeit a lot of Marshall fans maybe saw how the Old Dominion game started, where we botched the return and dropped the ball right on the 1-yard line, and Old Dominion scored within the first 6 seconds. So that was not a great look. But our return game, we've scored a touchdown on a kick return so far this year. Our punt return, we have Wayne Knight back there. Like Michael said, he's third. So he can do some damage. So our return game, I'm not too concerned about. Our punting is hit or miss, and our kicking game is hit or miss. I would not want a game to come down to a field goal. He's not bad, but he's not consistent. And there have been a couple of missed field goals this year that were really kind of gimmies. So I would say our special teams right now, it's not bad, but it's just not consistent.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would agree with that. And I think, the kicker that Taylor's alluding to is Morgan Suarez, who I think transferred in from FIU, if I remember correctly, the other Florida school. He hasn't really been relied on. I think he's 4 for 6, maybe 4 for 7.
4 for 7, and he's long as 39. So he's missed all 3 from 40 to 49.
Yeah, I think, and a lot of those came in the first 2 or 3 games of the season when he missed those kicks. And honestly, he's been in a great position where he's just had to hit extra points, right? We've been able to finish. So he hasn't had that game yet. So but he has come along, right? I think we've seen his confidence go up. But I do like our punter. Patrick Gray has really stepped it up the last 3 or 4 games, pinning folks. I think they've mastered how to like that coffin corner punt where we pin folks, in the 5-yard line. Our guys get down there in time. It was a bit shaky at the start of the year where he was kind of like playing with his dog foot a little bit. He had that Weber State play where he decided to pull and run for a first down, and he pulled up short when he should have just went for, the extra yard or two. That was a bit confusing. But when he came from Louisiana Tech, he was known as a bit of an athlete, right? And I don't know if we'll whip that out versus Marshall, but he is a very capable runner if need be from that punting position. And then I'll go back to the returners, right? It's been mostly Wayne Knight, which, hey, as long as he's got some gas in the tank, I think we're going to give the ball to him as much as we want on the punt return game. And then kick return, I don't know if you watched the start of the ODU game. Outside of, that was a crazy miscommunication between, 2 older players. I don't think we'll see that again. We do have one kick return for a touchdown. Was that Wayne Knight, Taylor? It was called back.
No, it wasn't. We scored. It was Georgia Southern. It was
Curtis Harris Lopez.
There we go. Yep.
Yeah, so he did run it back, but Wayne Knight did have a kick return, back from a penalty.
Yes, he did.
State. So there's potential there. I think they've been more cautious this year than trying to whip out all the fun stuff like we did last year.
I'd say probably the special teams highlight of the year, and it was the only highlight from this game, was in the Georgia State game when we ran back-to-back fake punts. And when I say back-to-back, I don't mean on separate series. I mean 3 and out, fake punt, 3 and out, fake punt for the first. So it was back-to-back, and I believe, Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, the first one was called, but the second one was basically –
It was a read. Yeah. So it was a snap to the tight end. It was Lakota Dupree, and he ran it in both times. The second one was called on the field. So as Chesney said, it was everyone held their breath for about 30 seconds when they saw him running on the sideline.
Just for accuracy's sake, Suarez came from FAU, and his 3 misses were 1 against Weber State, 1 against Georgia Southern, and 1 against Louisiana. So the last 2 games, he is still perfect. He only had 1 field goal attempt in that time. But, yeah, the longest was a 39-yarder. He's missed all from 40 and on so far. All right, so we have now talked about the coaching staff. We've talked about the offense. We've talked about the defense. We've talked about the special teams. At no point have you guys said, hey, here's a very weak link on this team. You should exploit it, which really pisses me off. But you're supposed to come on here and be like, oh, man, we're going to lose, and give me all this hope and talk and all this stuff, But I don't know. Maybe we'll just not have you guys back on, if you want to come here and start giving out facts and rankings and stuff.
If you want some warm and fuzzies, I'm going to say this. After our first trip to Marshall 2 years ago, I vowed that it would take extreme circumstances for me to ever miss again. You guys were great hosts, but not just you all, just the folks in the stadium, the history of the Marshall program. Russ, I told you I'm taking my son to the game for the first time. We watched We Are Marshall. And Russ, I think you also know that my former boss, when I first got hired at JMU, is a big Marshall guy, former SGA president.
Fraternity brother of mine.
Fraternity brother of yours, yep. And I'm hoping he'll be able to stop by the tailgate. But this is kind of both to the Marshall fan base to hear from us, but also I'm speaking to the JMU fan base. Marshall is a program that I'm proud that they're in our conference. I have a ton of respect for them. I'm sure at some point I'm going to have a bad interaction with a Marshall fan or a Marshall student, because we all do.
Probably going to be me, but
but I mean, it is a college town that, Russ, as you were talking pre-show, they love this team with a love that's not just based on when they win and when they don't. I mean, there's just so much affinity and passion and personal, investment into this program. And Marshall, along with App State, but even more so Marshall, is just one of those programs that I'm really proud to be with. And as the world talks about conference realignment every 2 or 3 years, I'm one of those guys that I'm like, look, as long as Marshall, App State, and Old Dominion are in a conference with me, I don't care if we're ACC, SCC, SBC, MAC, Division II, III, FC. I'm like, I don't care it's that 4 grouping of schools that I just have a ton of respect for. And so to all the JMU fans listening, make it to this game at some point. And to all the Marshall fans listening, you all have been nothing but gracious to us coming into the Sun Belt. And I can't wait to get back to Huntington.
Yeah, I that's one of the things that we have built a pillar on here for tailgating and in being welcoming, inviting, hospitable, and things like that. I mean, I've gotten the carpet rolled out from both of you guys when I went down there, and John and Jake and some other people from JMU, and it's good to have that, right? You know, when the game's on, cheer for your team and everything, but when the game's not on, you know, just have fun with each other and things. So I hope anyone making the trip up as a JMU fan is going to have a very similar experience. Michael, I'll give you a chance to say anything. You don't have to talk about the game, but I think this is your first trip, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
I was going to say I think I had to go out to Utah for a work trip in 2023, and I had to watch that game from my phone in between conferences. But I sorely missed it. I think that was the Jalen Green 5-sack game. And I think, like you said, our punter held you guys to the 1-yard line like 7 times.
Yeah.
It was pretty ridiculous. But, I heard such great things coming out of Huntington that this year I had to make it, right? So we'll be making the drive Friday afternoon. We'll be there bright and early Saturday morning representing the Dukes. But to echo what Taylor said, I remember 2020, 2021, where all the rumors started swirling. And I go, as long as if we can find a way to get into a conference with Marshall, App State, Georgia Southern, Old Dominion, and rekindle some of those old flames, like I'd sign up for that every day. Right. Mm-hmm. And the fact that now it's 5 years later, and it's still been crazy. Right. I remember 2022 game, you guys beat us at home. Obviously we found our quarterback wasn't going to play 10 minutes before kickoff. And then, we had
our team has yet to win. Yeah,
the home team hasn't yet to win. So that's why with these games, you throw the scores out the window, you throw the records out the window, even against an App State, and you look at proud program versus proud program, anything can literally happen. And that's why I'm nervous going into Saturday, especially with how hot we've been. And, hopefully we can keep the winning streak alive.
That 2023 game, star running back Rasheen Ali was out, for that game. And that was circulated at the tailgate when we found that out.
Oh, wow.
And then
wasn't that the game like Huff would not talk about his injury? Like, was he in? Was he out? Was he out for the season? It was like shrouded in mystery.
The starting quarterback had broken ribs and had to play that game with broken ribs. And it was 3-2 at halftime, 3-2. With our starting position again, the 1, the 2, and the 1. And like, what do you do? But it was insane.
That's a great example. We talk a lot about it on our podcast. I think our fans romanticize like the 2023 season a lot, when obviously Signetti was there and before he went to Indiana. But the fact it was 3-2 at halftime, people don't remember that, right? They just remember what happened at the end and how we kind of broke things away. But I mean, that team had its flaws as well.
I think it was 20-9 at the end of the game.
Well, I mentioned on our podcast a couple of weeks ago that everyone romanticizes that 2023 season when we were 11-2, but we were winning games by 3, 4, 5 points, and that's where I go back to the scoring margin this year, where I think we're winning games by an average of 16 points. So in a lot of ways, fans have been more critical about this season. But statistically, this is setting up to be even a better season than what we had in 2023. Those might be famous last words going into this Marshall game. But, this has been a special season. But this Marshall game, I've seen what you guys can do. It seems like, and the reason I went a little higher with my score was it just seems that you guys like to have a shootout, and that the games have been high scoring with y'all. Even the Old Dominion game, which you crushed them. They came back and put up 20-some points. So I'm looking to see what the offenses can do in this game, and I'm excited for it. I also think is it Karen LeGrand that I met at your. I wanted to give her a shout out because she stayed in touch and she was a warm welcome while y'all were doing the podcast. Now, correct, I don't know if this is y'all, her, or someone else, but I know there's been some talk of kind of trying to get some sort of rivalry trophy and kind of create a rival, which, I don't know what the schools are talking about right now. And if you've watched any of the Sound Off podcasts, we've kind of had forced upon us the battle for the Blue Ridge against Liberty. Since it's not our podcast, I'll go ahead and say I'm not a fan, and I really don't like when rivalries are kind of forced upon people. I like when they're a little bit more organic. But, I was talking to John and Michael, and I said, it might be kind of cool if our podcasts, the two of us, kind of take the lead at kind of creating something and hoping organically kind of create that. But I would love to consider. I do consider Marshall one of our top rivals in football, and I think it would be kind of neat to have that.
Well, funny you mention all of that, because I'm in my apartment right now where I record most of the time, and if somebody's in it, then I record in my house. But downstairs, I have a rivalry trophy that was created by Karen LeGrand, and however temporary it may be, because
Sure.
the two schools right now are being sought to give input on a bigger trophy that is being created, and it's from the account Battle for the Gavel.
I love it.
And they were trying to get it created for this season, this game, but they decided that it would be best, instead of just creating one on their own, that they get input and an actual trophy from the two schools and things like that. But the temporary one is downstairs in my apartment, courtesy of Karen. She will be at the tailgate. I am going to take that. I'm leaving it in the apartment for the guests that will be in here from JMU Friday evening, so he can see it. But I'll be taking it over to the tailgate and everything. And Karen created it, said, "Hey, this is just something simple, but I wanted us to have something." So we will, at the tailgate, I'll either be bringing it back home with me,
right,
or you guys will be taking it with you until next year.
Well, and for the JMU fans, if we share this clip, can you kind of give a little background and history behind the name and the Madison Marshall, and kind of where? Because I'm a big history buff, so I love the story behind this.
Yeah, so Marshall University is from Supreme Court Justice John Marshall, and obviously you guys, James Madison is the name, but everything kind of revolves around that kind of law making thing. So it's the Battle for the Gavel is what's been decided. You can follow that guy on Twitter. I think it's at Battle for the Gavel. Is the way it is. But they're actually getting getting input from the two schools to have a permanent trophy created. But I'll just talk about the rivalry real quick. We talked about the parallels of coming up from FCS and having that. Mickey Matthews, I've talked to Mickey many times. I know Michael just threw up some photos where he talked to him at the game. And this is a link that will always be there. Mickey roots for those two schools. Mickey comes back here when we play down at Coastal, he's there, because he lives in Myrtle Beach now, and he's on your show all the time and everything. He's beloved by both fan bases. Such an integral part of our history here. But when we came over to Sunbelt together, we go over and we have to play JMU, and we just lost our quarterback, and we were playing our backup quarterback. You guys were playing your backup quarterback, but you were supposed to run roughshod over us because we were at a bad point in our season, and we win that game. And then you guys come here, and it's a juggernaut of a team, and we're down our superstar, and we have a battle until later on in the second half, and you guys pulled away. And then we go down there in 2024, and, it's depending on what Georgia Southern does and App State does in that game. I think it was those two teams. We are looking at going up against you guys, and we just got destroyed in the first half. And then we come back and win the game, right? And so it has been one of these
overtime. Let's not forget a double overtime on a double reverse.
Yeah, two trick plays, one for the touchdown, one for the 2 point.
I've been sharing that replay just so it's fresh and fresh in everyone's mind. ahead of Saturday.
So I feel like we've had the rivalry not forced; it's been natural.
Right.
The name could still be forced on somebody, but I think it's also at least a decent name. So I'm
whether JMU fans like it or not. All right, I think the fingerprints of Marshall are all over JMU. I think when we designed the athletic center, when we were looking at building Bridgeforth, and I think just like strategic planning in general, I always hear there's talks with Marshall, right? There's a lot of commonalities between the two entities, right? Whether it's sports or in school. And Taylor, I mean, you obviously were deep in it back in the day, but you probably know this firsthand.
Well, I was going to say, let's not forget the biggest correlation. Marshall is the reason we weren't allowed to compete for a bowl game in the transition years because of how good they did during their transition. So thanks a lot, Marshall and Russ and all the rest of y'all for screwing us over 2 years ago.
What a stupid rule. If you're good, you're good, right?
Right.
I mean, what's it matter? I mean, it's not like if there's anything, you're at an unfair advantage,
Right.
I mean, the odds are stacked against you and you still are able to compete. Well, let them compete.
And Russ, I think you even mentioned it during the transition where that with the NIL and the transfer portal and all that stuff that didn't exist, because the rule was basically you didn't want players cheating to go down, only knowing they wouldn't have to sit out. Mm-hmm. But now at this point, no one's sitting out; everyone's transferring at will. The rule was even more irrelevant 2 years ago. But yeah, I mean, Marshall has been ingrained in our. I mean, there's so many parallels to the two programs. It's only fitting that this become the rivalry that it has become in the early stages.
Yeah, so let's hope for a really good game to continue that rivalry in this series. I want to hit you guys with an over-under. I try to throw one of these in at every time. Harrisonburg is 4.5 hours roughly, and you've got a lot of JMU fans, I'm sure, that live probably a little bit closer to Huntington in that Virginia area as well. So making the trip, I'm going to set the over-under at 1,500. Yay or nay? Do you take the over or do you take the under of JMU fans at Marshall Stadium? It's a noon game.
I'm unfortunately going to take the under, and I think the noon game's part of it. And just that it is, when I think of our alumni base, I think Marshall's on the western far exterior of it. So I don't know, but I think we have 1,000. Michael, what do you think?
Yeah, I was going to go under as well. I think that the folks that would have made that trip probably already, had their card in for going to Louisville, right? If they were going to go that far west, I don't think it's going to be that big. And plus the noon game, kind of like Taylor said, it's going to sound like 1,500. I guarantee it. Especially if we're doing well, you will hear us. That is for sure. But yeah, I'd love for there to be more than 1,500. I just don't see it for Saturday.
Yeah.
Okay. Second over under. I'm setting this total at 6. Over under 6 mimosas consumed by Michael Evangelista at the tailgate.
Oh,
Pre-game, not post-game.
Oh, take the over all day, every day.
You guys not know me? Come on now.
Go over.
All right. We've heard everything about JMU, but we haven't heard anything about JMU sound off. So if you wouldn't mind, give a little bit of the background. I obviously know it, but give the background to how this started, and then be sure to tell everybody where they can find your content, because this week they're going to want to listen to everything they can about this game or watch on YouTube.
Yeah, I was going to say, similar to you all, right? It's a podcast for the fans, by the fans, and that's how it all started. When Taylor, myself, John, and Steve at the time, we were thinking about how do we get all of these like amazing group chats and group forums all together, and we're all kind of speaking the same language, but wouldn't it be fun for it to come together in a podcast in this forum? And then honestly, it kind of started as like a dial-in show on Twitter with the Twitter Spaces, which kind of went off the rails every now and then, because you just never know if someone had one or two extra beverages that night, and it turned into what it is now, right? And we've had some amazing sponsorships. We've had the university championing us as well, which has been pretty phenomenal, and getting to know the players, getting to know the ins and outs. And it's been really great, right? Because we've all experienced it the last 2 or 3 years with NIL, the transition to rev share, being able to get the word out and educate the fan base on what exactly is happening with college sports, and how do we educate not just the fan base, but also how do you get involved with the school, and how do you do it in the right way, and making sure your resources are being used to the advantage, right? So that's been really awesome and provide us some really good opportunities. And you can find us everywhere, right? I think we're in Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. We're in Blue Sky, I believe, as well. You can reach Taylor directly on his cell phone, or he's in Bogota, so he probably has a rotary phone.
We got a high schooler on our staff that's got us on TikTok even. So
we're on TikTok. Yeah,
we are on TikTok. I've never seen us on TikTok. I don't have TikTok.
I don't have TikTok either.
Yeah, and Michael's being a little humble, so I'm going to go ahead and just and pump him up a little bit. Michael had the chance to represent the JMU Sound Off on the Pat McAfee show. I mean, not just a couple minutes. He was on there for about a half hour the Friday before game day when we had there, so that was pretty neat. Pat McAfee put on a JMU Sound Off quarter zip, ripped off the sleeves of this handmade, custom-made quarter zip that our sponsor was not thrilled, but was also thrilled that it got the exposure. So I think it was kind of a wash. But yeah, we've had a lot of fun doing this. We continue to kind of add new aspects to it. We're not quite, I think you said you're doing 4 shows a week yet. So, props to you. We're getting there with kind of what we're doing, but yeah, we're excited. We love coming on this, the ThunderCast. You guys were one of the first podcasts to really reach out to us and make us feel at home in the Sun Belt. So, appreciate having us on tonight, and looking forward to the trip to Huntington.
Yeah, I remember those days when it was just the Twitter Spaces show, because I joined in there after my first trip to Bridgeforth, and I had to pump up Michael there because, again, he said, hey, come over to my tailgate and, don't worry about bringing anything. And they just treated us like family. And that's what I love about the Sun Belt as well. We have an opportunity to go to a lot of games with the regional aspect of it. And in every place that I've gone, there have been fans that have reached out and said, hey, make sure to come by our tailgate and this and that. So anybody from JMU, you're going to see that when you go by Marshall as well. Guys, do you have anything else about this game or about JMU Sound Off, or feel free to talk all the stuff about Marshall that you want, about how awesome it is and all that. Oh, one small thing that I do need to say for anyone that's JMU fans watching or listening. This is the 75-week game. This is not the true 75-week that plane crash was on November the 14th, 1970, and we unfortunately have an away game. I was talking to you guys about it before the show started. But this will be the 75-week game. That is why we're doing the all-black uniforms, black helmets. I'm assuming they haven't released it, but that's tradition. Black helmets, black jerseys, black pants. There will be a special video, and there will be some special things. So you might want to get into the stadium, 10, 15 minutes early.
Yeah, I think I told you before the game. So bringing my son, it's his first away game as a JMU fan. We watched We Are Marshall, and I thought that it was neat for him to kind of, just get the concept of everything that is this Marshall program. And it's funny because he looked up at me. He's like, so Dad, who are we cheering for? And I said, well, JMU. And he goes, well, I mean, yeah, but I mean, can we cheer for Marshall too? I mean, that's the kind of impact that movie had on him. So I might have overdone it to try to get him excited about this game. But
yeah, I'm gonna have a shirt that he can wear the whole game. I'll just have to bring it over.
But no, I mean, that for anyone that hasn't watched that movie, and I'm mainly talking to any JMU fans that are watching this. I mean, if you can make it through it without shedding a tear, props to you. I've never been able to do that. And what I do love about it, and Russ, we talked a little bit about this before the show. My dad's side of the family is from Mingo County, West Virginia, and we've been out there many a times visiting families. So I just know what a town like Huntington, what a program like Marshall meant back then, what it means today, and just the pride that people have from that area. So again, nothing but respect, and always look forward to this game. Look forward to beating y'all, but I can't say enough good things about Marshall other than there's one day a year that I don't like him, and it's the day that we play him. So
I hear you.
And for me, on a personal side, I love traveling. I love seeing other parts of the country. My wife and I have been out west many times and checked out Yellowstone and all those great places. And from the Sunbelt wise, I've been in Atlanta, I've been in Conway, I've been down in Statesboro, I've made it to Boone a couple times, but I haven't been out in Huntington. And I'm really excited to kind of see what you guys have to offer and what that looks like there and the history that provides. But if you're listening to this, and if you're following it, tweet us maybe places to go, right? What are some like lunch spots or late lunch spots after the game to look at? What are some must-see historical areas that we should dedicate and allocate some time to? That's like what I love about these trips. I know last time I went out to Louisville, we went to the New River Gorge, right, which is the new national park. I think that's relatively close to you all, but anything like that would be awesome. And obviously on the field, I care a lot, but off the field, I love seeing new places and seeing other parts of the country.
Well, maybe this is a great time for me to plug the visitor's guide that we do that we'll be putting out actually probably before this gets posted in the morning. I'm probably going to put that out tonight. But anyway, anyone that makes the trip, we have a written visitor's guide with photos and things and reviews on ThunderCast.Online. But we recorded a video version of that, and it's a YouTube exclusive, and I'll put that out on Twitter as well. So, yeah, it kind of tells you everything about some places to see while you're here on campus, where the memorials are, if anyone cares about that, dining, things around campus that are, must see. But guys, I'm looking forward to it. I think this was a great episode. Thank you so much for coming on. And I'm going to close this out, take us out of here by saying, whether you see us at the Vet, whether you see us at the Joan, or whether you see us at the C Lot, hosting JMU Sound Off, and any fans that want to come over and getting away with an upset victory, no matter where you see us, we're going to be saying, go Herd. It's the ThunderCast, and we'll see you in a couple of days.